Hey guys, Buffin Gaming back today, bringing another video for our Tactical Weapon Series Part 11. So this is our 11th video in this series. I'll go ahead and link all the previous videos down below in the description for this video series if you want to go ahead and reference them. But this video, we're going to be going into Cold War as well as Modern Warfare weapons that you can utilize in both the game's respective multiplayers very successfully. And they can also be used in Warzone. They're very off meta, but if you use them and play with a certain playstyle, they can definitely be very viable if you're cautious, even with the current meta right now. So let's go ahead and back out, and we'll get right into these. And first off, we'll back out, and you see the first weapon here is going to be the Knights Armament Company Light Assault Machine Gun. So what this is, first off, this is going to be the Finn LMG at base, is the weapon you want here. I believe this was one of the machine guns for Season 6, I think it was. Perhaps Season 5, I don't remember. But again, Season 5 or Season 6, this was part of the Battle Pass. It's a origin is United States, and it fires a 5.56x45 NATO. It has a special recoil system, so this weapon has really no recoil whatsoever, specifically with these attachments here. And really what it's designed to do is fire like an assault rifle, however you have all the extra ammo to engage with mag dumping if you need to, or belt dumping in this case. So we'll strip this thing down. The Finn LMG, this is going to be a very off-meta build, really inspired. One of our community moderators, Odin, brought this to my attention. And I've really never used it with the base barrel, but it is definitely very viable in the mid-range, especially if you're going to use this in Modern Warfare multiplayer. It would be very, very effective. But first off, we're going to go with a monolithic suppressor. Now, this attachment will be only for Warzone. You'd want the monolithic suppressor for the obvious pros and cons, sound suppression, damage range, and to stay off the minimap. Cons being the aim down sight speed, as well as the aim walk steadiness. If you're not using it in Warzone, it's really personal preference. Otherwise, I would put on a compensator or utilize the attachment elsewhere. The compensator will just even lower the recoil further than it already is in the game, which is almost non-existent. So we'll go ahead and put on the monolithic suppressor here for mainly our Warzone specific build. We'll utilize the base barrel here. You have a bunch of different barrels here. Now, supposedly the recent update broke the adverse barrels and they no longer fire with the high rate of fire. I'm not sure if that's true. I haven't tested it myself, but that's what I'm hearing. However, we're going to go with the base barrel here. So this will be the slower rate of fire around 550 to 600 rounds per minute in game. I believe it comes out to 600 actually. Laser, we're going to go with a tactical laser here. Oddly enough, there's no hip fire lasers, the 5 milliwatt or the 1 milliwatt available. This will help us with the aim down sight speed because it is a light machine gun. Aiming stability and aim walk extendedness. The cons being the laser visibility to the enemy when you're ADSing, but that's really it. And you have a couple different options here based on the blueprint, but we're going to go with the default. I like that tan look. Next up for the optic, we're going to go ahead and run a 4x flip optic here. Again, this is mainly aesthetic. You can put really any optic you want on this, but this will definitely help you be a little bit more accurate at those, stretching out those medium to longer range engagements with the base barrel here. The weapon itself, very little recoil, so you can still engage at those ranges. This will help you just see a little better. You can tap fire a few bursts. Definitely very effective. So, again, you can just toggle from the 4x flip to the standard holographic as the pros there. Aim down sight speed is going to take a hit, but we're mitigating that with the tac laser. Next up for this particular build, I'm going to run the 5.56 100 round belt here. Mainly, again, I like the aesthetics of the belt bag there, as well as you have the case telescope rounds here as well, which are also good. However, they will lower your damage. So for this purpose, I'm going to run the 100 round belt of this, so we'll increase from a base of 75 to a 100 round belt. And then for the underbarrel attachment, we're going to go ahead and run a Ranger foregrip for the recoil control. That'll mainly affect our vertical recoil, and the aiming stability, again, will just assist us there as well, along with the tac laser. Those two will complement each other pretty well. Cons being the aim walking movement speed and the aim down sight speed. So we'll go ahead and put this on. And then for the reticle, I prefer on this build the Chevron Tactical. I think looks really nice. And you can see there, that is our Knights Armament Company Light Assault Machine Gun. Really, really underrated machine gun here in game. Very, very, very accurate. Damage is nothing special, and it does not have a headshot multiplier, unfortunately. However, it's a very accurate weapon and very good, especially it's lightweight, so your mobility really doesn't take too much of a hit with this build. So, highly recommend it for Warzone and multiplayer as well for Modern Warfare. So, let's go ahead and back out, and we'll get to the next weapon here in this video. We're going to cover the SA-80 series of the L86. So we'll go ahead and jump into this. Now this is again, the SA-80 series has the A1s, the A2s, and now the A3s are just being, I believe they might actually have been produced and already somewhere in service. But But again, this is based off of mainly the light machine gun variant of the L85, the assault rifle. And this is a bullpup assault rifle out of the United Kingdom. We'll strip this thing down. Now, this is a blueprint called Cover of Night, which really modernizes the look of this. However, I really wish we had a proper L80, L85A2 or even an A3 blueprint. But if you look at the base weapon here, if I go to the blueprint option, you can see the base weapon is a very old, rustic A1, and it just looks very, very beat up. And so we're going to want the Cover by Night. It just modernizes the weapon itself, gives us a nice quad rail on there, and again, just cleans everything up, looks very, very nice, and honestly makes it look kind of like a different weapon, to be honest. I don't really know, this doesn't really look anything like an SA-80 series at this point, just by the modifications they made to it, but it does look pretty cool nonetheless. So we'll go ahead, and for this we're going to run, again, monolithic suppressor for the same reason I talked about. If you want to run something different, if you're in multiplayer, I would suggest a compensator, just because it is a machine gun. It does have the heavier recoil here in game. Now, we're going to want the 25.4-inch factory barrel. That'll give us the same barrel length as the L86 series, which is a light machine gun variant of the L85. So that'll increase the damage at range, bullet velocity, and the recoil control. Cons, the ADS speed, and the movement speed. Now, for the optic, again, personal preference, I'm going to run an integral hybrid here. That'll give us a zoom toggle as well from a 3.25 with a top-mounted delta point. Cons are just the aim down sight speed with that. Then we'll go ahead for the ammunition. I'm going to run a 50-round magazine, so we'll increase from 30 to 50 instead of 60 because we save a little bit of mobility there. Cons are going to be the ADS speed and the movement speed. And then for the underbarrel, again, we're going to want the Ranger foregrip. Or if you really wanted to go with the L86 look, you could run the bipod on it, which would look really nice as well. But that'll give you the crouch and recoil, or crouch and prone recoil control. For this one, we're going to want the Ranger foregrip. That'll give us that vertical recoil control, aiming stability, same thing as we just covered with the last weapon. And again, this actually hits really hard because in game it's classified, it's really added as the L86, so it has a damage profile of a machine gun, and it hits very, very hard for a 5.56 weapon. So highly recommend it. Here is our L86. Very nice. However, I still wish there was an L85A2 in game. It would look really cool. L85, we could go with one of the base barrels, or even the 18-inch barrel would look really nice for an L85. But would have been cool to see an L85A2 or a A3. But nonetheless, that's the L86 light machine gun from the United Kingdom. Really nice weapon, very underrated also. Next up, we're going to cover the AK-104. So I've covered this in some videos previously for some Warzone weapons and things like that. Definitely a very, very underrated weapon. I don't see anybody use this. This is going to be built out of the AK, the Cold War AK. So we'll go ahead and take the camouflage off. Now the Cold War AK at base is an AKM. You see the stamped receiver as well as the rib dust cover there. So this is an AKM at base. What we'll go ahead and do is for the muzzle, now with a recent buff to the muzzle, or the GRU suppressor and the agency suppressors, we get the effective damage range increase here and the recoil, vertical recoil control. So very effective on this weapon. This will assist us with the sound suppression as well, keeping us off the minimap, and the effective damage range, bullet velocity also. So you get a lot of pros with this for very little cons. Those cons being the ADS speed and the aiming stability, which we're going to make up for. So we'll put that PBS4 or the GRU suppressor on there. Now the barrels for an AK-104, this is a key barrel here, is the 15.5-inch barrel. So this is the only barrel that gives us that 90-degree gas block. You can see if I scroll through the rest. So the 15.5 going to give us that the 90-degree gas block, and it's the shortest barrel available. This will help us with the strafe speed, but again, I'm not using this barrel for any pros or cons, just for the aesthetic look. But again, it does help out the mobility quite a bit there as well. So it's definitely a good for CQC engagements. Out to, I would say, 60 meters, you can engage very effectively with this if you learn to control the recoil. Next up for the optic, we're going to go ahead and do the Cobra sight here. This is going to be a 1.75 times zoom magnification here. It's a Russian optic on a Russian weapon. It looks really nice. Next up for the ammunition, we're going to go ahead and actually, I suspected this when I was first playing this, when the Cold War integration started. And it seems like Jay God and some of the other guys kind of validated what I explained in my Warzone video for this. Is that the fast mag for the 60 round slows your mobility down more so than a standard 60 is kind of the consensus that everyone has agreed with so far, unless it's changed with the recent updates. I'm not sure. But I run the Bakelite 60 round magazine. Again, this was purely through playing with the weapon and noticing what attachments worked best with this for mobility and things like that. And I ended up settling on the Bakelite 60 round instead of the fast mag. So this will increase your ammo capacity from 30 to 60. Cons are ADS speed and reload quickness, but you're going to save mobility versus the fast mag. Next up is going to be, now that they finally fixed the underbarrel attachments, I believe, would be the Spetsnaz grips for the horizontal recoil control and the vertical recoil control. Cons are the firing movement speed and the ADS speed, which again, we're mitigating that with the shorter barrel and things like that, so it shouldn't affect us too much. We'll go ahead and put that on. And then one thing to note, they did recently buff the GRU suppressor. Prior to that, I was going with the PPS-1 or the standard suppressor, again, for mobility reasons. I was taking a hit to the accuracy, damage, things like that. However, now that the PPS-4, the GRU, has the vertical recoil control added to it, this seems to be the best option. And you can see if we look at the mobility, you'll save mobility with PPS-1 or the standard suppressor, but the vertical recoil control you definitely could use this weapon. It'll help you out a lot. Now, for the camouflage, we're going to run just a nice woodland. You could even run... There's a couple different options here that you could run that look really nice on this weapon. Something like the ambush as well, but we'll go ahead and run just the platoon woodland camo here. This is our AK-104. We're running that camouflage just to get rid of the wood on the weapon. It'll give it more of a polymer look to it with the clean camo on there, so it's hard to tell that it's an AKM versus a 100 series weapon that would have largely polymer where the wood is on this weapon. So this is our AK-104. Again, very, very effective at close range. Very, very underrated weapon. If you can control the recoil effectively, and now that they added the vertical recoil control to the suppressor, the GRU suppressor here, it should be even easier to do. So this is our AK-104. Definitely, I think I've played some of my best games in Warzone ever using this weapon right here. So I would highly recommend it. Next up, we'll move on and we'll cover the AK-5. So the AK-5, this weapon, again, is out of Sweden. This is a weapon that I used a lot when the Cold War integration first started. I thought this weapon was really, really effective. I haven't really picked it up since. I've gotten really away from the Cold War weapons lately. But again, you can run the agency suppressor for the same pros and cons we just discussed with the GRU. The barrel you're going to want, in my opinion, the 19.7 Ranger for the bullet velocity increase on this weapon will help you out a lot. Again, very low recoil weapon. You want that effective bullet velocity so you're hitting your shots quicker. The optic, go with the Vision Tech 2 times. And then we'll go ahead down to the ammo. Again, we're going to go, you save mobility with the Stenag 60, so we'll just go with that casket mag there for the Stenag. However, you could run maybe a 45 round speed would also be effective. Or if you don't mind the mobility hit, the salvo. Then for the underbarrel attachment, the same thing. We're going to go with the field agency grip for the vertical and recoil, or the vertical and horizontal recoil control. And that is our final design for the AK-C. Again, this is the Swedish assault rifle, the AK-5. So it's not the AK-5C, but the AK-5. The AK-5C is a more modernized variation, which I did cover in a Cold War weapon conversion. But this is just our standard run-of-the-mill AK-5 back from the 1980s. And it is the Sweden variation of the FNNC. Go ahead and back out. And we'll cover our next and final weapon, being the Mark 17. So again, this is a very different Mark 17 build. I've been playing with this a lot more lately, and I played with this early on in Warzone. It's still pretty effective today. So we'll run the monolithic suppressor for the sound suppression and the damage at range. Stay off the minimap. We're going to run the base barrel again here. And we'll go ahead and use a laser for attack laser for the pros and cons increase there. Optic, I'm always a big proponent of the Leopold Hammer, the integral hybrid, because we can toggle our zoom magnifications there. And then for the ammunition, we're going to want that 30 round magazine, and the underbarrel, we're going to want the bipod foregrip. You get a huge buff to the recoil control as well as crouch and prone recoil control. Makes this weapon very, very accurate. Even with this base barrel, the recoil, in my opinion, really isn't too bad, especially if you're very conscious about your engagements. Try and at least crouch, or if you can mount on something, it'll be even better. So this is our final design for the Mark 17 standard. And again, just using that base barrel, very effective. There's two designs that I've used with this in the past. One is with the tack laser here, and another one would be if we took that off and we use the rubberized grip tape for the extra recoil control that has. We're going to take a little hit to the aiming stability, but again, not too much of a con there. So that would be another build that I really, really enjoy. This is our Mark 17, or our Scar Heavy standard variant. Just a really nice build here. And again, you actually save pretty decent mobility with this. You can get more up close and personal with your enemies versus trying to rely on more of the range that the 20-inch barrel provides with the Mark 17. So today in part 11, we covered the Mark 17 standard, the AK-5, the AK-104, the L86, and the Knights Armament Company LAMG. So let me know down below what you guys think of this. This is the Tactical Weapon Series Part 11. Let me know what you guys think down below. What kind of weapons you want to see covered in maybe Part 12 of this video. What kind of weapons you run that maybe I haven't covered in the past that are your favorite, maybe off meta, or they're meta with just different type of attachments that are to make them look more tactical and are viable in Warzone and or multiplayer. So let me know down below. Till next time, this is Buffner Gaming, out.